Have you ever had the feeling that someone was watching you, even when you were alone? It's that unsettling sensation, like eyes on the back of your neck. Most of us can brush it off, blame it on our imagination. But what if it wasn't? What if, in that moment, you weren't alone at all? This is the story of Olivia, a 24-year-old college student. Olivia was practical, skeptical of the paranormal, always rationalizing things with science and logic. But some things you can't explain. It all started in October, right as the leaves began to fall. Olivia had just moved into a new apartment, a quaint little place on the edge of town. It was small, but perfect for her. The rent was cheap, and it had that old-world charm with its creaky floorboards and vintage fixtures. It was quiet, peaceful, until it wasn't. From her first night there, something felt off. It wasn't anything she could describe, just a feeling, like the air was thicker than it should be. But Olivia was tired, so she ignored it and went to bed. That night, she woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of faint whispering. She thought it might be the wind, maybe the neighbors. She pressed her ear to the wall, but the sound wasn't coming from outside or next door. It was coming from inside her apartment. The whispers were soft, almost unintelligible, but she could make out a few words. "She's here. She can hear us. Don't wake her." Olivia's heart pounded in her chest as she sat frozen in her bed. She wanted to get up, to turn on the lights, but something deep inside her, something primal, told her not to. After what felt like an eternity, the whispers stopped, and the apartment fell silent. She convinced herself it was a dream, that her mind was playing tricks on her. But the next day, things only got stranger. In the kitchen, she noticed small things had moved. Her keys were on the table when she swore she left them by the door, and the cabinet doors were slightly ajar. She told herself she was just being forgetful. But then, it happened again. That night, at the same time, 3 a.m., she woke to the same whispers. "She's listening. Don't let her see." This time, Olivia forced herself out of bed. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and scanned the room. Nothing. Just the emptiness of her small apartment. She checked every corner, every shadow, but there was no one there. Yet, the whispers felt so close, as if they were right beside her. Over the next few weeks, it escalated. Olivia began seeing things out of the corner of her eye. Dark shapes that disappeared when she looked directly at them. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, more oppressive. She couldn't sleep. She tried telling her friends, but they all laughed it off, saying she was just stressed from school. But Olivia knew. She wasn't imagining it. Something was in her apartment. Then one night, it got worse. She had just returned from a late night study session at the library. Exhausted, she dropped her bag on the floor and collapsed into bed. As she drifted off, she heard the familiar sound of the whispers. But this time, they weren't distant. They were right in her ear. She shot up in bed, her heart racing, and that's when she saw it. At the foot of her bed, barely illuminated by the glow of her phone, stood a figure. It was tall, unnaturally thin, with limbs that stretched too long for its body. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and where its eyes should have been, there was nothing. Just hollow, empty sockets staring back at her. Olivia screamed. She scrambled to turn on the lights, but by the time she flicked the switch, the figure was gone. The room was empty again, but Olivia knew what she saw. She wasn't crazy. The next morning, she packed her things and left. She never went back to that apartment, not even to get the rest of her belongings. She found a new place across town, one that was bright, modern, and had no history, nothing that could hold whatever it was she had encountered. To this day, Olivia still doesn't know what it was. A ghost? A shadow figure? Something worse? She's tried to move on, to forget about that apartment. But some nights, when she wakes up at 3 a.m., she still hears the whispers. She's listening.